For example 1, we're going to determine the intervals on which the function is either increasing, decreasing, or constant. To break up our intervals, we are going to be using the domain or the x-axis. And our graph has arrows on both ends, which means it's going to continue to go on forever in both directions. And on the x-axis to the left forever is negative infinity, and on the right side would be infinity. And when you determine the intervals of increasing, decreasing, or constant, you are moving left to right. And from left to right, if your graph is moving downward, it is decreasing. If it is going steady, it is constant. And if it is going up, it is increasing. So on this particular graph, coming in from negative infinity, my graph is going downhill, and so therefore it is decreasing. And my graph continues to go downward up into this point on the x-axis. So coming from negative infinity up to -1, my graph is going downhill and it is decreasing. So I'm going to come over here to where my chart says decreasing, and I'm going to write my interval from its start to finish, starting at negative infinity up to -1, my graph is decreasing. And when you make a switch from going from one situation to another, for instance, in this case, we are going from decreasing and we will be switching to constant, at those places where you change, your graph is neither doing one thing or the other. At exactly -1, my graph is neither decreasing nor constant, so we use open parentheses on the endpoints of our intervals. We're not going to use a closed bracket because it technically doesn't include that point. And then our graph switches, and it's going straight across constant, so from left to right, -1, all the way up to this point right here. My graph is going nice and steady, straight across is constant, and then over in my chart, I'm going to write that interval down, starting at -1 up to +3 on the x-axis, or our domain, our graph is going constant. Then our graph is switching and it's going uphill again. So from 3 all the way up into this point right here, our graph is going uphill or increasing, and that interval is 3 to 5. So from 3, starting at 3, up to the x-coordinate of 5, my graph is increasing or going uphill. And then we have one more switch where our graph again changes. It changes from going uphill to downhill, so now our graph is decreasing. And since our graph has an arrow on the end, that means it's going to decrease forever. So starting at 5 and going on forever, our graph is going downhill or decreasing. And I'm going to write the word "and" in there. You can put a comma in between if you want, but I'm going to write the word "and." And our graph, once again, is decreasing from 5 to infinity. And then just don't forget, your intervals are going to have parentheses on the ends, because at each one of these points where your graph changes from one situation to another, it's neither increasing nor decreasing, so it doesn't actually include that point in the interval.